So today I'm actually going to be talking about a story that I don't hear really anyone else talking about. And essentially it is a man that was in Mississippi who was found hanging from a lamppost in an appearance of lynching, but the police said it was suicide. Okay, we are going to get into this video, but before we do so, do not forget to leave a comment down below. Also like, subscribe, and hit the thanks button. Now, first off, I actually want to play you all a TikTok video that describes this event in full for the most part.
This is 23-year-old James Cooper. He was found dead hanging from a light pole less than 2 weeks after moving to Mississippi. The sheriff immediately ruled it a suicide despite glaring evidence that it was a murder. James was planning to get his ID that same day that he went missing. He was scheduled to get a haircut the next day, and a down payment on an apartment had been paid, and he was to start a job all that week. Unbeknownst to James, who he thought was his girlfriend had already secretly told the landlord that they did not want to get the apartment. Interesting enough, this same female claimed that she phoned James's mother on May 8th, the day that he went missing. She said James's mother said that she had contact with her son James, and he said that he was in a nearby wooded area by water. However, James's mother said this is absolutely not true. She never had any contact with this female the entire time that James was missing. And interesting enough, that is precisely where James was found 2 days later.
All right, so as you all have seen, it is a crazy set of circumstances. This stuff doesn't make any sense, okay? I'm actually going to go over it again so that we could make it make sense, because like I said, this stuff doesn't make any sense. All right. So I'm actually going to go and put up on their change.org petition that they have. Their goal is 5,000 signatures for this man, James Cooper. Okay. And I'm just going to go ahead and read a little bit of this. And it says, "We, the undersigned, are deeply troubled by the untimely and suspicious death of James Cooper, a 23-year-old Wisconsin native who had recently relocated to Mississippi because who he had thought was his girlfriend had told him that she had 2 months to live, which simply was not true. In less than 2 weeks, he was tragically found hanging from a pole under circumstances that demand a thorough and impartial investigation." So it has the last moments with the alleged girlfriend. James was last seen walking out the back door of the apartment where he was living following a disagreement with who he believed was his girlfriend on May 8th, 2023. Misleading statements. A witness has come forward saying that when they went to this friend and expressed their concern that James was missing, the friend assured them that she had spoken to James's mother and that she had said that James had supposedly texted his mother claiming to be in the woods by water with his duffel bag. However, this was later revealed to be a falsehood, as there was no communication between this quote-unquote special friend and the mother until after the body was found. Now we got the discovery of the body. 3 days later, James was discovered hanging from a pole with nothing around him to step on or to get up there to hang himself with, in line with the location of where the friend had previously mentioned. Suspicion also arises from her refusal to provide James's mother contact information during his absence. Questionable investigative handling. The investigator swiftly ruled that his case was indeed a suicide, despite looking at pretty much any evidence. Now, this is James's demeanor. It is crucial to note that James exhibited no signs of being suicidal. He had plans for that very day, including obtaining his ID, and had secured a new job, a haircut appointment for the next day, and plans to move into his own apartment later that week. He did not know this quote-unquote special friend had already told the landlord that she no longer wanted the apartment prior to his death. So his quote-unquote girlfriend was like, "I only have 2 months to live." He's like, "Okay, I'm going to move all the way from Wisconsin all the way down to Mississippi. I'm going to get residency there, get a new ID. I got a, new job. I got to secure it. Got a haircut appointment the following day." And then he just ends up dead, hanging from a lamp pole, with nothing underneath them. So obviously someone else had to have been there. And now he's just doing that. He's just suicidal out of nowhere. And it says inconsistent evidence. James was discovered with cords of wire wrapped around his neck, similar to those found on telephone poles. The method of binding, the type of wire, and the position in which he was found in a sitting manner on the ground rather than hanging all point to suspicious circumstances. It's highly improbable that an individual could have accomplished this act alone. Obviously, there is foul play in hand. Okay, so they want to have a federal investigation going on in this situation. All right, now I actually want to mention their GoFundMe that they have for James K. Cooper as well. All right, I'm gonna read a little bit of it. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and read it. And it says, "My name is Nadine Galmore. I am the mother of James K. Cooper, the young man who was found murdered hanging from a lamppost in Greenville, Mississippi. Trying to obtain details into my son's death has been very difficult. I've hit roadblocks in obtaining vital information and reclaiming personal belongings from the authorities. Therefore, it's been advised to seek legal representation to obtain the police reports and all files they may have pertaining to my son's case. I know there are a lot of details and information that is being purposefully left out, as well as items of my son's, i.e. his tablet. They refused to return to me, his mother. I am seeking assistance to help gain legal representation for my son. If you know anyone who can assist with these legal matters, please help us understand what truly happened and honor his memory. I urgently need legal assistance. Their goal is $10,000. They currently have $4,055. So that's what's going on. It's a very upsetting situation that has happened, but I also want to bring about other cases and let other people know, because some people may be like, well, I mean, it's just one case, you know what I mean? So this is why I have this. Judge awards $11 million to family of Mississippi man found hanging from a tree. Okay, this happened in 2021. That's when the judgment arose for it. We have another one. Here's an article. It says lynchings in Mississippi never stopped. I'm going to read a little bit of the story. And it says, since 2000, there have been at least 8 suspected lynchings of black men and teenagers in Mississippi, according to court records and police reports. In 2019, Jill Colleen Jefferson, a lawyer and founder of Julian, a civil rights organization, began focusing her investigation on Mississippi. In each case she investigated, law enforcement official rules the deaths suicide, but the families said the victims had been lynched. From 1877 to 1950, more than 4,000 black men, women, and children were lynched in cities and towns across the country. Crowds of white people often gathered in town square or on courthouse lawns to watch black people be lynched, I think for entertainment purposes. The NAACP defines lynchings as the public killing of an individual who had not received due process under the law. There is a pattern to how these cases are investigated, Jefferson said. When authorities arrive on the scene of a hanging, it's treated as a suicide almost immediately. The crime scene is not preserved. The investigation is shoddy, and then there is a formal ruling of suicide despite evidence to the contrary. And the case is never heard from again unless someone brings it up, i.e. the case of James that I just mentioned. No one is bringing it up. The only official article I saw was about that long, and it said, yeah, this guy James, he ended up dying. It was saying, yeah, this guy named James, James Cooper, he ended up dying, and it was a little suspicious, but was a suicide. And it's like, that's it. There was no more. I looked to see if there was other articles. It was one article that I saw, and I was like, Okay, so I went on TikTok and people were talking about it on there, but it still was not to the rate it should have been. But let's continue. I'm going to provide a couple of examples that came from this article of different people who have been killed there that was ruled as suicide at first, or they were trying to make it seem like it was that, and or just straight up lynching. Okay, Raynard Johnson, 17. Raynard Johnson was found hanging from a pecan tree in his front yard in Kokomo, Mississippi. The Mississippi Bureau of Investigation called the hanging a suicide, according to records, but his family believes otherwise. Nick Naylor, 23. 3 years later, Nick Naylor, 23, was found hanging from a tree about 11 miles from his house in Porterville, Mississippi. A dog chain was wrapped around his neck. Police ruled it as a suicide. No justice. Roy Veal, 55. A year later, Roy Veal was found hanging from a pecan tree near Woodville, Mississippi. Relatives said Veal was found with the hood over his head. A state police spokesman told reporters Veal's death was consistent with suicide. Relatives said it was otherwise. Frederick Germain Carter, 26 years old. Frederick Germain Carter was found hanging from a tree limb in a white neighborhood in Greenwood, Mississippi. The state medical examiner ruled Carter's death a suicide. They say otherwise. Craig Anderson, 49, one of the most graphic examples of modern-day racial terror, killing occurred on June 26, 2011, when 10 white teenagers killed 49-year-old James Greg Anderson in Jackson, Mississippi. The teenagers who, according to court records, decided to, quote-unquote, go F with some ends, ran over Anderson in a parking lot while yelling, quote-unquote, white power. Otis Bird, 54 years old. Otis Bird, who had been missing since March 2nd, 2015, was found hanging from a tree on March 19th, 2015 in Port Gibson, Mississippi. The Clybourne County Sheriff's Office said Bird was found with the bedsheet wrapped around his neck. Bird had been convicted in 1980 of murder in the death of a white woman. According to the Mississippi Department of Corrections, he was paroled in 2006. Philip Carroll, 22. Philip Carroll was found hanging from a tree in Jackson, Mississippi. Police called the death a suicide. Early reports said Carroll had been found with his hands tied behind his back. Police denied that account. DeAndre Montrell Hopkins, 35. DeAndre Montrell Hopkins, who lived in Columbus, Mississippi, was found hanging from a tree on a bank of a Luxapalia Creek. Columbus Police Chief Fred Shelton said Hopkins' death was not a homicide. They declined to comment. So I could see why the family is not like, okay, well, we'll just accept that it's a suicide, because you have a lot of this kind of stuff that's going on. You say, oh, well, it's just a suicide. And it's like, but did you look at any of the other evidence? Yeah, but it's just a suicide. Let me know what you all think down below.